I am loathing posting this. If you must comment, I ask that you refrain from remarks concerning the morality of my actions. I am looking for useful commentary, not the opinions of blithering masses regarding something I have already made up my mind on. If you tell me I am depraved or evil, I will simply ignore you, because I don't care. If you tell me I'm an idiot, well, I'll still ignore you because I already know this. I wouldn't be posting here if I hadn't completely screwed up. And with that out of the way, let me tell you what I've done. I have made a bargain with death. There is no formal contract or agreement. It is merely an understanding. I do not want to die, and death does not want anyone to exceed their allotment of living. I've figured out how to stay alive, while the cosmic scale of how much lifetime is parceled out remains undisturbed. Please do not go and try to summon death. I believe it is a law of reality, like gravity, not a sentient entity that you can converse with. You'll be wasting your time, and the only cost you'll ever pay is your dignity as you stand there chanting like a fool, surrounded by fresh linen-scented votives from Walmart. Don't bother trying to recreate my methods either. I've spent most time ensuring they are not easily obtained. It wouldn't do to have too many others like me, in case society starts to catch on. I will give you the gist so that this story makes sense. Every person will live a set amount of time that is determined when their life begins. No one dies before their time has been used up. And this is the important part. But, let's say a particularly ambitious and clever individual, someone that has studied both the laws of physics and the occult extensively, has managed to devise a method in which they can end a life prematurely. What then happens to the leftover life that has been unlived? My first experiment was on my aging father. The loss of his extraneous lifespan would not be such a tragedy, as he was already on his deathbed and barely aware of his surroundings. Indeed, my family was hoping his death would come swiftly, put an end to the waiting. I knew, however, that it would come when his time was spent, and no sooner. So one night, it was my turn to watch over him so that he would not be alone. A gesture only meant to soothe the living, for he certainly wasn't coherent enough to notice our presence. I enacted my ritual. He died, perhaps a few hours before he should, perhaps a few days, and that lifespan he had left was released as energy. I woke up in the hospital. I had 3 broken ribs and a shattered collarbone, countless lacerations. All the windows in the house were shattered. They called it a gas explosion. Curiously, our father's body was undisturbed, but he was dead. I survived, obviously, because I had not yet reached the end of my lifespan. My recovery from my injuries was long, however, not an experience I wish to repeat. I suppose this is where some will say, "What a horrible thing you did, ending his life like that, and it would have been better if you died in the explosion." There, I said it for you, so you don't have to waste your time typing it out. My only regret is that my siblings were robbed of the comfort a peaceful death would have given. Death isn't peaceful. Ever. But if there hadn't been an explosion, I could have at least lied to them. My second experiment was an aging neighbor, a woman that lived alone, her husband having died some years prior. I began to visit her regularly, for her children lived out of state, and I claimed I was merely trying to be a good neighbor and ensure she wasn't left alone for days on end. The truth of it was, I was trying to gauge her life and how suspicious it would be if I called the police one day, frantic and upset, saying I had walked in to visit as I often did and found her dead. My ritual, you see, leaves no mark, no evidence. They can find some other plausible natural cause to blame. I learned that she had difficulty breathing and that she took medication for her heart. So one day I came over and said I would take care of her yard for her. I mowed and weeded, taking my time, occasionally meandering inside for a glass of water. Eventually she fell asleep and then quietly put the lawn tools away and came inside while she slept. Tried the next version of my ritual. I confessed that I was frightened. If it didn't work, if the lifespan turned into energy, it might be an awkward situation to explain. But there was a more frightening prospect. If it did work, but the results were not what I intended. My new ritual was meant to transfer that lifespan to me. Obviously, it succeeded. Nothing catastrophic happened to me, and for those of you thinking what a pity you survived, how eager are you to wish death upon another? I won't say the process was without a cost. It was horrifically painful. Have you ever had blood drawn and had them miss the vein? And then with the needle in your arm, they begin to push and twist and shift its position, trying to puncture that thin tube. It so eludes them. And you're trying desperately to hold still and remain stoic. But all you can think of is that sliver of metal under your skin. No. Maybe it's just me. I confess, I'm frightened of needles. But it hurts. Trust me. Imagine that kind of pain everywhere. Your skin, your muscles, your bones, even your organs. Like that life force I absorbed was injecting itself into every tissue of my body. I felt it with agonizing clarity. I screamed, obviously. A neighbor heard and came to see what was wrong. Found me crying in front of a woman's motionless body. Easy enough to assume what happened. They'd seen me mowing the yard just half an hour prior. I came in to tell her it was finished, found her dead, and after the loss of my own father, well, it was understandably traumatic. And they took me away, comforted me, and called for help with the body of the poor woman. I attended her funeral. Her children thanked me for being so kind to her in her old age. They hadn't realized her health was as fragile as it was, they said. She never let on. Didn't want to worry them. No one noticed that most of my wrinkles were gone, that my hair had lost its white streaks. I am 139 years old. I'm not certain how much of that was actually my own, but at this point it's obvious that I am living off the lifespan of others now. I have a system. I find someone that is elderly and find out how to secure time alone with them. Then I take what time they have left and transfer it to myself. I have not yet developed a way to discern how much time someone is remaining. I have certainly tried, so I have to guess. I try to target people that are in their mid to late 70s. The average lifespan is around 80 years, buying me a couple of years at a time. Sometimes more. But never enough that I would revert my age any further than my late 20s or 30s. I have to move periodically, of course. I secured a lawyer to transfer my assets at one point, next of kin, and then died by taking a sailboat out on the ocean and having an accident. They found the wreckage of the boat. They didn't find a body, and when I was officially declared dead, a younger cousin showed up to claim the inheritance. If you're wondering why I went through all of this trouble to cover up what I had done, only to reveal it to strangers on the internet, well, I need you to understand the uniqueness of my current predicament. I'm honestly not sure what to do. Mere hours ago, I took the lifespan of my latest victim, a 74-year-old man. I figured this would put me somewhere around 28 in appearance. Though, honestly, it's hard to know for certain what physical age my body is at. This is where I screwed up. This is my idiotic mistake. I suppose I got greedy for youth and replenished my lifespan too soon. Or I finally got unlucky. This individual was one of those rare people that live far longer than the average, into their 90s and perhaps even hundreds. I now look like I'm 12 years old. I have a house, a job, a driver's license that says I'm 32, and I look like a 12-year-old. I'm sure you see my problem. Suggestions are appreciated.